Good afternoon, everyone. We are You Betcha. Well, that's the name of our website. We're Team Null. And today we're going to talk about what we've gotten done for Sprint 4 about our model and our website. First thing is the stand-ups. Since we're all online now, all of our stand-ups were controlled via Discord, i.e. remotely. We had stand-ups. We try to do it weekly and take off the weekends. We meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2 to 5 and Tuesday, Thursday, 3 to 6. And we'll talk about what we've gotten done, things we're working on, or bugs we've had.
So as far as our estimated versus actual velocity, this is probably one of the more productive weeks we've ever had. We're shooting for around the same ballpark that we usually do, which is around 50 to 60 points. But we just got so much done on the front end that not only did we get all of our work done, but we got a lot of both what we're going to do next sprint and some extras done this week. So you can see by burn down chart, we still had 5 days left to do stuff. If you look at our burn up chart, it shows that we passed our goal and we still had some time to add new features and whatnot.
So as you can see, this is a picture of our Trello board for sprint number 4. All of the story cards on the left are ones that we completed, and as you can see on the right, we only had one story card that we didn't complete, and that one just had to do with, as developers, we wanted an ability to save our model so that we could make predictions later on. Next slide, please. This is our picture from GitHub. As you can see, we have 34 new Git commits, and out of those 34, 22 of them were meaningful. Like Lane said before, we had a lot of good progress on our front end, and so a lot of those meaningful commits came from Lane on our front end. Just something to note is that when we push things to Git from our virtual machine, it actually shows up as being from Zach's Git account rather than whoever else actually pushed it. So that's just one thing to note. Next, we have lessons that we learned during this sprint. Basically that it revolves around, most of us were working on the model, except for Lane, who kind of worked in the front end. And basically we just learned that creating a model for ourselves takes a lot of time, and that we should use all of the resources at our disposal, and we should be looking for more ways to get help on that kind of thing, on that kind of stuff. And then from our group, it's just that when you complete story cards or your story cards for the sprint, that it's very helpful to the project and to everyone else to ask if they need help before grabbing extra story points that maybe we wanted to do later on in their project. And then some adjustments for next sprint. Our communication has actually been pretty great. Discord is a good tool that we use often to communicate. If somebody has an issue, they usually will ask in the general chat. And they'll get an answer within the hour at the latest. And so we're going to continue working and using Discord for communication. And then for workload, we're just going to try to delve out the story points as equally as possible on Trello so that everyone is working the same amount and not overly taxed by workload.
So moving on to the model, we have a little bit of update from where we were last sprint. And I'll just talk about what we've done since the last sprint and how that kind of relates to each other. So what we did with our data was we cleaned it, we uploaded it, and we understood it using our reducing programs such as random forest and correlation matrix. And then we went on to select our features in 3 different ways using the correlation matrix, backwards elimination, and recursive feature elimination. Now, the reason correlation matrix is a reducer and a selector is it helps us reduce the features in which we're looking at for backwards elimination and recursive feature elimination, since those can be quite computation heavy.
So what does this all mean? Looking at logarithmic regression, we need to reduce things just to help speed up the process. And then from that reduced list, we need to select things as well. But we don't want to be looking at all 40 features. We really only want to be looking at 20. It helps our logarithmic regression model predict better. And the other thing we need to understand, or as Travis mentioned, we cleaned the data. We need to understand what all this data entrails and make sure all the data points were actually meaningful. We were running into some issues where some of our features would only have 2 data points out of 14. So we had to figure out why and then figure out how to change those data points. And now the other thing is, since we're using logarithmic regression, how many models are we actually going to build? We're actually going to have one for each team, and that way we represent the team as a whole and not as a conference. So if you were to look at it, we have one team through 14 years. That's how that team will play, because we can track trends throughout the years. We're not looking at a single conference. We're taking the teams and isolating them from each other. So going in off of, again, more of what I just said, now that we have all that done, we understand the data coming into it, we understand what our model produces, we need to make sure and check that it's not overfitted or underfitted. We need to reduce the data more since we have data understanding now, we can reduce it even farther and actually give the model only what it needs, not a bunch of extra junk that it has to sift through. And how we're actually going to use all of this is we're going to calculate the probability of a win. Now, we do that by looking at the weights from the model, the logarithmic regression model, and using them and comparing the values from each team that a team will play as. So you'll have an A team and a B team. We'll take those features that they share, compare each other, and be able, with the weights from the model, be able to tell who wins.
So, like Zach was saying, we'd have a comparison between 2 teams. And we're looking at a graphic that we displayed last sprint, where we had a old equation, which is a linear regression model. And then on the left-hand side, we have the new model, which is something that we've developed ourselves. We've changed X, which is the value in which we're applying these weights to beta. And we're taking the difference between attribute from team A minus attribute from team B, which gives us a better idea of how the teams will compare against each other when they actually play each other.
Moving on to what we were tasked with this sprint, actually using a profiler to further understand how our programs are actually running in order to see their memory usage and other bits of data. Moving on. First, we use Visual Studio on our Python programs for our model. In this case right here, we had it to where we were doing our correlation we were doing our program for taking our correlation matrix and getting the weight based off that. It first uses reduction and then selection based off that. And as you can see, we took our program and we gathered the function that was requiring the most amount of utilization, and then we broke that down to dive further in. Then in our own time we went into other areas and looked deeper. Moving on. And here's our other model program where we were doing our reduction and then selection again through random forest and the other pieces of the model. Moving on. And it was testing our front end to make sure that how fast it actually ran. As you can see, you have all your task and all your parsing through HTML and other scripts and whatnot. And you can see that the website loaded pretty quickly, and all the things on the website loaded up correctly. We use Chrome through the developer tools, of course, to monitor all the statistics and all, and GPU usage, timings, and everything and whatnot.
All right, and now we're on to our demo. As a reminder, our project is always hosted live due to the fact that we have access to a server rack on campus to one of our advisors for this capstone project. So I'll now show an update for what our website currently looks like.
One thing to note while this is coming up, from the view from our profiler, we were able to determine that the reducer took the longest per selection process, which is a good thing. That means our model will actually be able to run faster and be more efficient because it doesn't have to sift through all the variables.
Cool. All right, so this is our, when you go to our website, which is 138.47.27.57:3000, you get to our homepage. As you notice, we've updated all of our basically photo carousel up top. So there's like 20 photos that you can like sift through up there. Just to, make it very obvious that this is a college football website. We have one of our extras that we want to do is we have a game ticker, which is in place, but we're still messing around with the API to get it to work right. To where it displays a team's like live score, so it'll display all the games and all the scores. We have a description for each page with this jumbotron right here, and then we have what we call our game boxes, which basically says Team A versus Team B, what our model predicts is the outcome, and then we'll add our percentage in to the right of that once our model is up and running. And this is just all like who we are and how to contact us and all that jazz. We have an updated login page. We have an updated register page. We have our subscriptions page, which eventually will have buttons on these parts where you can purchase subscriptions via Stripe. So that's what we're going to implement next quarter. We have our basic model that displays all the games that we have in our database. If you notice, there's 4 games here, but in our home screen, it only lists the top 3 games for the week. If you notice for advanced, you have to have a subscription to access this. Same thing with our pro model. And then when we have contact us, we'll have social media and email. That the way you can contact us, but we'll also have a direct messengers, which we got done this week as well. But you have to be logged in. So I'm going to go ahead and log in that with a basic account. There we go. And then if we go over to subscriptions, it tells me which current level of user I am. But it says like, hey, you haven't purchased a subscription, you can't access the advanced pro model, which the advanced and pro models are subscription based. So that's how we make money off the website. But you notice since I've logged in, I have access to direct messenger. And so I can just type some stuff in here and it'll say you received your message. Granted, I should probably do email address verification, but that's tomorrow's problem, not today's problem. And now I'm going to go and log into an account that has, I believe, an advanced level of user, which is just my tech email address with an S added to it. Can't remember if this is advanced or pro. Okay, so it's logged into that. And you see now we have our advanced model. So it'll list all of the games and kind of with these labels, and it'll show advanced metrics, and it'll split to the game box. But in this area right here, it'll have a bunch of buttons and switches to adjust the model's variables.
Input parameters.
Yeah, the parameters that we send that you can adjust, and then it'll resend it to our backend. It'll calculate kind of the new outcome based on the weights that you change, and then it'll change the percentage. It's the exact same thing on the pro model, so but it's not, the account that I'm currently under does not have the doesn't have the access to pro yet. But anyway, if you would like to go here and register right now, and you want to kind of play around with some stuff, you can. I have it set to where anyone who signs up right now is automatically a pro user, so you have access to this, the pro model and the advanced model. Yep, and you see, and it'll give you your highest level of user that you currently are. Cool, and that's everything we have to show for what we have so far.